We have this idea in spirituality or meditation that we're searching for something. And in a way, that's the beginning. That's what you start out doing. You start searching. And then you hear phrases like, God is searching for you just as hard as you're searching for God. And there is absolute truth to that. But then there comes a point where there is no more searching, and a type of realization comes up. And the realization is that everything that you've been looking for is already there. You are already that which you want to be. That's how, like, channeling your higher self, future selves, that's how all of that kind of comes to fruition, is the understanding that all time is happening right now. There's never been a time other than right now. And that's, easy to say, but we age, right? We get older. Our skin gets a little wrinklier. We get a little white in our beards. Our hair starts going gray. Gravity takes over. And all of a sudden, you're old and saggy. And then, maybe you're on your deathbed. And a lot of people have their awakenings at that time. I know my grandfather did. And I'm just glad that I knew what he was talking about when none of the other family members knew what he was saying. I got it completely. And he was lucid enough to where I could ask questions. I wasn't physically there with him, but I was on the phone with him the whole last 7 days of his life. And he was a beautiful old guy. He really was. He had no filter, not at all. He spoke from a place of authenticity no matter what. However he saw it, that's how he said it. To the point where it would hurt people. But it wasn't intentional. He didn't mean to hurt people. He wasn't dark about it. He would just say things as they were. And you couldn't blame him for it. But no, I remember the call. He'd been on dialysis for a few years. He was 83 years old. And he called me up and he said, listen, I'm gonna stop doing dialysis. I was like, okay, what does that mean? He goes, yeah, I think it's my time. I was like, oh. He goes, listen, I can't clean up after myself. I have a hard time using the restroom. He goes, my body hurts. And basically his standard of living had went down so much that he was just tired and he was done. And I said, okay. I said, but you call me or I call you every day. And we did. And we talked about nothing. We talked about the weather. We talked about the old home place in Minnesota, fishing on Crane Lake. We talked about going hunting and purposely missing the deer because you didn't want to kill it because there was no point in it. That was one of the first things that my grandpa and I really touched on. And it made our relationship so much bigger. I went hunting with him, and I saw this deer down towards the swamp, and I had a 12 gauge loaded with a fucking slug, and I aimed, and I had him in my sight, and I lifted the gun up about a good couple feet, and I hit the tree behind him. I did it on purpose. He was, I think it was a 8-point buck, so it was fairly big trophy prize, right? And I shot at it, and it took off. And now I feel bad for shooting the tree, but anyhow, it took off. And my grandpa did the same thing. He shot at it, shot above it, and I didn't know that at the time. But before he died, he told me that story, and I was like, "Holy shit! I did the same thing." He goes, "You did? Well, why'd you miss it? That would have been your first deer." I was like, "You know what? I don't want a first deer. I really don't." And he goes, "Yeah, me neither." It's that alpha male bullshit. You know, if you can hunt and you need to hunt for food or whatever, that's one thing. But hunting for a trophy, or just for the sake of it, it's just, I don't know, man. There's just nothing there for me. And it's, you know, it's neither here nor there as far as judgment goes, because people do what people do for whatever reason they do it. I knew a lot of people back in Minnesota that they went hunting every year because that was food in the freezer for them to eat. I mean, there was some poverty. So I'm not judging at all. I know what guns are for. I know what hunting is for. And you don't even need to make up any sad stories about, you know, how we need to control the population because we've taken out all the predators. You don't even need to say that. True as it may be, or not true as it may be, the reality is there's some people that are just starving and they're hungry and they use that for food. So I can't judge anybody on that. But it was a warm moment that my grandpa and I had. I was like, well, holy shit. I was like, is that why you only have one rack up on the wall? And he said, yeah. He goes, I've purposely missed, because my grandpa was a good shot. And I was a good shot too. And it was always baffling to people how, you know, we'd go target practicing, man, we'd hit bullseye every time. But man, out there in the wild, they just, you know, they just lost their courage. No, we just didn't want to kill anything, you know? So as my grandpa passed over the next 7 days, we talked about little things like that. Talked about the weather, of course. Old memories. And then he went into a coma. I think it was like day 4 or 5. And I didn't know. Nobody had told me. So I called him. And my aunt answered the phone and whispered in my grandpa's ear that I was on the phone. And he shot up and grabbed that phone, and we talked. We talked a good hour. And I didn't know that he had been comatose. And he went, as soon as he'd get off the phone with me, he'd go back into this coma. And he wouldn't speak or eat, just gone. And every day I called him, and he would come out of it, and we'd talk. And the last day is when I found out. I said, are you afraid of dying, Grandpa? He goes, you know, I was, but I'm not anymore. I was like, you saw something, didn't you? He goes, yep. I said, and you don't know how to explain it, do you? Nope. But it's made of love, ain't it? Oh, yeah. And he died about 2 or 3 hours after that phone call. My aunt called me and she goes, you know, and that's when she told me that, you know, he'd basically been in a coma for the last 3 days. And the only time he came out is when I called him. And the last thing I said to him was, it's been an honor having you as my grandpa. And it was. And then I told him, you know, on your way to the other side, stop by the house and have a cup of coffee with me. My son was born almost, it would have been 5 months after my grandpa died. Or no, 1 year and 5 months. I'm sorry. 1 year and 5 months after my grandpa died. And that kid, man, he loves black coffee. So that's one of the reasons I believe in miracles. And I don't believe in God anymore. I just know. And also, I know that he doesn't have a religion. He doesn't have a very specific practice. He just wants to be included. And he's not a he. I'm just saying that to save time. It's funny. And I'm sure I'll get some comments from Christians. Jesus is the only way. No, Jesus is the way. For you. Find your way. Find your path. It's imperative. And it makes a big difference in your life. Finding a thing that can solidify your understanding of the other side. So just keep at it. Be kind, be generous, be loving, but take no bullshit. As always, much love.